Welcome to the CEOess ERA Conversations. We are an evolved experience within the Boss Woman Network podcast. I'm your host, Leilani. This platform is designed for women who are choosing to build from a self-first foundation where clarity, alignment, and well-being come before everything else. And because success isn't just about how or what you build, it's about how you build it and who you become in the process. Now, each conversation here is intentional, and we're not just talking about business. We're talking about the decisions, the pivots, the challenges, and the systems that support sustainable growth. And today's conversation is one I'm looking forward to. We are joined by a woman with over 30 years of experience in health and wellness space. Joining us today is Miss Robin. Is it Swan?
Yes, Robin Swan, like the
Robin,
birds.
Robin Swan, founder of the Swan Apothecary. Robin's journey is unique. Her work was shaped through her experience working in professional sports, where she supported clients dealing with serious health challenges like traumatic brain injury and cancer. So, from that journey, tell us about your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how was Swan Apothecary born?
Well, Swan Apothecary is the most recent incarnation, let's say. So in 1996, I started a compassionate use company called Firebird Touch Therapy. And that was birthed from an experience that I had, through a ceremony where I wanted to take my metaphysical, my educational, and my somatic background and create one thing. So that is Firebird, because we are consumed by our own being to be rebirthed inside of ourself. That is the process of the soul becoming an authentic being. Like when we're raised, let's say we're raised and our whole family are turtles, but we feel like a rabbit and we're like,
Right.
I never fit in here, I'm a rabbit. And all the turtles are like, you need to slow down and be more like us, right? Well, that's where we start to get shielded, because we have to protect ourselves. And that shielding and armoring starts very young, like in 3, 5 years old, because we all want to belong and conform and be part of something, right? But that doesn't
Right.
work for us as we get older. As we get older, we're like, but I really am a rabbit. I really need to be
Right.
free. And
That's
if we're
true.
not really ready or able to step into that authenticity, then we end up in addictions. We end up in
Mm.
bad relationships. We end up using substances. We end up doing things that are outside of ourselves in order to find that comfortability to belong and conform.
Mm.
So Firebird is the transformation. So the only way that we really, truly, I believe, can heal as humans is to step into our authentic self and let our freak flag fly, because that is the gift that the creator gave us, is our individuality, our uniqueness. So that was the premise of how my business started. My background is
Mm.
I'm a structural integration neuromuscular therapist, North American herbalist, metaphysical minister, and I have a PhD in metaphysics. So I
Wow.
come, I come with all of that, but I'm also a mom. I'm also a tribal member, and I'm also a first generation American.
Oh,
So I have
wow.
a very unique upbringing in that my mom was born in Iran, and her mom was born in Yemen, and her father was born in Iran. So she came to America when she was around 5 years old. And then my father is an indigenous. My parents have like gone on to the afterlife. But my
Mm.
dad came from the Quella Territory, which is where North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee all come together. That's the Eastern Band Cherokee Nation, and I'm a citizen of that nation as well. So I grew up within the crossfires of that, if you will.
Wow.
So I had this very deep, I come from a matriarchal culture. So the women in my family were all warriors. That's why we have a product
Mm.
called Fire Kitty, which is about really, I'll tell you about that later. I could get really distracted here. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's
Anyway,
okay.
so these women in my mom's lineage were all warrior women. I mean, they literally, like, there was a story of one of my aunties who was lighting like the roofs on fire as she was running away from the enemy. So she was like, these are and my grandmother, her mother, brought all of her seeds from Persia that she grew in her garden. She was also an herbalist, so she sewed them in with her wealth into her clothing so that when she came to this land, this America, she would be able to have the medicines that she knew and continue to help the people. So I was 45 years old when when I really realized that all of my education was just part of my DNA. Like, I didn't even need to go out and get
Mm.
all that
Mm.
education because all of the women on my matriarchal sign had all been what I was: herbalists,
Mm.
midwives, body workers. I don't really like to use the word healer. I like the word conduit more because you're bringing people to things. So
Right.
I was like, I'm not going to get no more education. Like, I'm like, totally stacked there. And then my father's people, of course, were dirt people. Of course they were about the dirt. And my grandmother, my patriarchal grandmother, was much more accommodating, if you will, because she had not had the level of adversity of, being stripped from her village and moved from her homeland. But yet they were also, except for my
Mm.
band of people, didn't get moved on the Removal Act of 1738. They did not go on the Trail of Tears. They went up into the trees and they lived in the trees for 100 years, and they
Wow.
kept their territory and their land that way. So that land is still in my family today. So in doing that, of course, they had to come very much into alignment with the planet. So my patriarchal grandmother was wild crafting hemp when I was a little girl, and she would make this delicious salad that she called a grease salad, which was basically wild hemp, roasted hemp seeds, dandelion, wild mustards. Like, just, we'd all go out and collect this, and then she'd toss that with some delicious bacon fat, and that would just put everybody to bed, like,
I
in,
bet.
in a minute. And then my Persian grandmother was actually, and this, I love this story because it's true and ridiculous, but she was basically growing weed in the 1930s and 40s, right? But she didn't think that it was anything at all except for this plant. And then,
Wow.
as her grandkids started getting older, they were like, Nana, I've been growing this weed. What are you doing? So she would make products and help people that way too. So I grew up through the lineage of
Oh.
working with the plants and understanding that the plants are they're people too. They give us things. They give
Mm.
us life. They give us breath. They give us caring and nurturing, and without, we're symbiotic to them. And honestly, our human body is that of a plant. So
Mm.
yeah, I had just moved to the reservation in Montana, the Salish Kootenai Reservation, around 1995. So it was all kind of coming together in the cannabis community, and I got this little tiny grant from all the tribes in Montana. It was for Native women in business, and it was somewhere between like $1,500 and $2,000. It was so long ago, I don't remember the exact amount, but and that is where I started my practice, Firebird Touch Therapy. So that's
Oh.
how that all came about, with the mission of for the people. So in wanting to be with the people, when you're a body worker, you can only be with one person at a time. So you're not
Yes.
really very effective that way. So then I thought, I had this awesome idea. Well, let's open a restaurant, because that way I can feed the people. And that was
Right.
really, I mean, coming back from my medical background, and now all of a sudden I'm gonna like have this restaurant. Well, that was really one of the greatest teachings and lessons of my entrepreneurial journey, because if you've never worked in a restaurant, it is the hardest work in the world. There is nothing harder than owning a restaurant, and the
Mm.
holes in that bucket and tracking that it was impossible. I was also in a reservation town of 500 people, so, and I had this awesome concept, because I'm like, from the East Coast, New York, and all of that I could open up this restaurant with an offhand glass studio, because my husband was an offhand glass blower, and we would serve these delicious pizzas that were just as good as Manhattan, and all the people
Mm.
would come from all over Montana. to my town of 500 people that was 2 hours away from everyone. So that did not really go well, you know. But through the trying to keep the doors open, I really learned a lot of things about business. Like you need one
Mm,
product, not 50. All right.
right.
You need to understand your customer base. And you need to, if you're going to, like, you have to, I truly believe, if you really want to be a successful woman entrepreneur, you have to be able to do every single aspect of your business before you hand it off to somebody else. And then the ultimate coup de grace of learning was realizing that I had to foreclose on that building. I lost my parents in a 6 month period, and my dad had just died, and my mom was sick, and I could not keep it. I could not keep reinventing myself. I had just spun out. I had young children. You know, there was many things going
Mm,
on. So I sat down and I just had a real come to Jesus with myself. And it was the first time that I had to give up, so to speak, like to really learn that walking away was not failure. Walking away was survival and therefore a win. Because what I was walking away from was debt. That's not even a tangible reality. What I was walking into was the care and the last part of my parents. And that was
mm,
going to give me so much more. And in the process of that, I was in conversation with Trader Joe's on this chocolate cake this flourless chocolate cake that I had gotten in many stores in Montana. Because that's what, not having people that were coming in the restaurant, I had to figure out, get the food outside. So I made this
right.
flourless chocolate cake and I got into all of the specialty stores in the state. So that
Wow.
was, it was just, you have to constantly keep reinventing yourself. And there is no such thing as a problem. There is just an opportunity for a different pathway. You know, and one of the things that I'd like every woman to hear is that there are 8 directions, as above, so below. So if the direction you're looking at isn't working, turn around, turn to the left.
I
You
love
will
that.
see something completely different. Anyway, so I was coming to Trader Joe's. My mom had just died. It was 5 days to my meeting with them. I went through 20 pounds of chocolate. I could not make 4 4-ounce cakes. I reached out to Trader Joe's. Here's my story. They said, "Oh yeah, that's terrible. Sorry for you, and go back to the back of the line because if you miss your date, we don't reschedule. You have to reapply. There's too many people who are bringing their products to us." So I was like, well, that sucks. And I had to lean back into, what I knew, which was Bodywork. And I had just come back from Montana to San Diego. So I Googled most expensive spas in San Diego because I was just not going to mess around. I was just going to go to the top tier because that's another thing that's really important. You have to know your audience. Like, not everybody belongs in a 5-star spa. Some people are really comfortable and will succeed at a massage envy, if you will. So like you've got to know where you're comfortable because you're never going to really like pull yourself up into a situation if you cannot hold the space of the container that you want to be in. So I got a job, and the first person I met was the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, and he was like, "Well, you're pretty gosh darn good. Why don't you come over and take care of our whole family?" And I was all
Wow.
ethical in that moment, and I was like, "I'm not allowed to give you my phone number, but my name is robinswan.com, and you can just look me up," because that seemed legit. So he literally Googled me right in that moment, and that was that. So that
Wow.
brought me back. Now, before that, in my before life of going to Montana, because I've been doing body work since like professionally, I graduated from massage school before I graduated from high school. And, I like to say that I started working when I was 5 because my dad would give me a quarter a foot and 50 cents for a back rub. And, because my parents were so weird anyway, he had like a reflexology chart. So I was learning reflexology at 5 years old. So by the time I had landed, then I went to, I got a job in a spa before I went to massage school. And then I went to massage school, and then I've done like so much beyond that. But it was really, always invest in yourself, always educate yourself, never say no to education, show up even if you think that you're not smart enough, which is different from not putting yourself in a situation that you don't think you belong, but you're always smart enough. There's a difference in that. So from that, it put me back into pro sports, which was really, awesome. And through that, get, ball players, I had already worked in the NBA. So this was just an extension of that, the NFL. But the difference was that these guys had concussed so many times. I was working on so many ball players who had multiple concussions and, messed themselves up. So I am not a fan of the NFL. I think it is a huge like puppy mill cartel to
Yeah.
take the most talented men, melanated men, use them up and spit them out. And
Yep.
that is really what I witnessed during my time with all those players. And I got in touch with they had gotten in touch with me a place called Project Walk through all of this, which was a modality of getting people with spinal cord and brain injury walking again without surgery. So taking people who are quads and paraplegics and teaching them how to and getting their bodies strong enough to hold them. So I created a modality for that. And then through that, I'd always been making herbal stuff because of the, crazy old women that I grew up with. Everything was always made within our house. There wasn't like, it was just normal, like, how like your tia will tell you to put like, this is funny too. Like, oh, go ahead and put like some garlic and some onion in on the bottom of your foot. And then
Yeah.
so when I got older and started working with Anglo doctors and I'd tell them that, they would be like, "You're so funny."
It worked.
It does work, exactly. But it was just interesting to me to see, like, when you are raised in a culture as opposed to a non-culture, when you're just sort of
Mm.
like in that Anglo pathway, that's just sort of like whatever you're fed on the television. You don't have
Right.
that real deep lineage to people, that you really miss a lot in that. You really miss the nuances. So through all of that, and I've always been around cannabis, like my whole life. All of my older siblings and cousins, were growers and well, they were just, hoodlums, basically. So cannabis, and it was always around me in a medical way, and also around me in a recreational way.
Recreation. Yeah.
So I was like, how can I really help these people? Because they're just too many narcotics internally just shut your organs down. Like they slow your system down. That's how SSRIs work, and opiates is by slowing your system down, so it reduces the pain like pulse. But
Mm.
what it also does
Mm.
by doing that is it also slows down your intestines, your bowels, your liver, your kidney. So this is where all that uncomfortability comes from, and people can't, eliminate their systems for days at a time when they've done a lot of opiates. So I started using cannabis on them topically, and that made a huge difference. And then I had lost 9 family members in a 2-year period to various diseases and cancer. And that really threw me into, I have to learn more because this cannot continue to happen. And YouTube connected me with this guy named Rick Simpson when he had first come out, and he had put out this film called Run From the Cure, which I highly recommend if anybody's interested in cannabis as medicine. It's a very old film. Actually, all the information is outdated. However, it's a great introduction to the conversation of cannabis as medicine. And
Mm.
I felt like, he was very helpful. And I was like, wait a minute, I already know all this stuff. Like, I've already been doing this stuff since I was like a little girl. And that just propelled me into making more products. So I closed my practice in 2017, 2018, and just dive deeply into making cannabinoid medicines. And so that is where Swan Apothecary birthed, because people are like, what does that mean? Firebird Touch Therapy. That's so many. And then being as creative as I am, I started this CBD line called Blue Buddha, but everybody thought it was
Mm.
for babies because the Buddha was a baby. So this is like my
Mm.
journey as an entrepreneur has been very much like, just because you love it, like I don't know if anyone can see this, but like my daughter made this. It's one of our things. It's super adorable. I love it so much, right? It doesn't
Oh, cool.
work. It doesn't work in secular society, though, because if you
Mm,
don't know about these things like mushrooms as medicine and you come up against the happy guy by the mushroom, you're a little
that's
scared
true.
as opposed to just the label that says what it is. So it's been a
True.
huge learning for me as far as marketing goes. And I mean, it has been a like fisticuff fight on letting go of the all of the super cool things that I wanted to look like into this homogenized sort of Hermes beige bag. And, I've had to concede to it because I want to grow. So there you go.
Mm.
That's my
I
story.
love that. That was very that I got a history lesson. I learned so much in that time. Um, what have been some of your biggest challenges in your industry?
Legislation is presently one of my biggest challenges, and the fact that it is
Mm.
the good old boys club. You know,
Ah,
cannabis is very much the good old boys club. They are not welcoming of women at all. It's just the same. So, and then even within the circles of like women empowerment, there's a lot of what I call the sorority girls. Like
mm,
women who have pivoted, they're lawyers or accountants, and they went through that traditional upbringing and then they decided that they wanted to be in the weed industry because it sounded like it was more fun.
mm,
But it's business as
mm,
usual, except for it's not.
mm.
And I feel that, coming from a reservation, living on a reservation, doing tribal politics has been a wonderful way for me to circumvent and navigate the ridiculousness of our legislation because it's not business as usual in that environment either.
Mm. So it has its challenges.
Yeah, it definitely
What?
has its challenges. Yeah.
So for people that don't know anything about this particular business side of it, what are some of the like if you could just name a couple of the challenges that you actually face?
Uh, well, I'll give you the top three. One is purveying the correct product. So if you are not in a situation where you know who's growing your product and you're just buying randomly on the street, then you really don't know what you're buying. So that's a
Mm,
huge like if you wanted to because there the cannabis industry draws the kitchen witch backyard alchemist a lot, people who
mm,
who are like me come up, with feeling like they really have something to offer. The plants really speak to them and they feel drawn to do that work, which is a beautiful thing. But when you move out of your kitchen and you move into the mainstream, there has to be a standard of excellence. And meeting that standard of
mm,
excellence in this particular industry and also with all herbs, like sourcing all herbs, because for many years I did traditional herbs like calendula and lavender and rosemary. And I
mm,
grew all that stuff as well because sometimes when I would buy it from organic vendors, it would still be filled with mold. So purveying your products is one of the most challenging. And the second
mm,
thing is hiring staff. This is different. Like I've had lots of different kinds of staff. I've hired massage therapists and Pilates instructors and fitness trainers and people who worked in my restaurant and all of that. And then I get here to this industry and people think that smoking weed is a skill set. So
what?
like and that's a real challenge in my industry, like
Mm,
it's starting to lessen a little bit because it's not a corporate structure at all, and when it is a corporate structure it fails because cannabis is not a corporate plant, so it doesn't want to
right.
behave that way. But when you're hiring people, they're like, oh yeah, really, I know about weed, I could work for you for sure. So that
Mhm.
that has been a huge challenge, and it's taking me, I mean, I love my staff right now. I have a staff of 10 people right now. They have all been cultivated carefully. I have vetted them all into the business. They all own a piece of it. For every year you work for me, you earn 1% of this business. And they get dividend checks when we succeed and hit our financial marks. They get paid because that, as an entrepreneur, you have to have other people work for you. And I feel that the more you understand that those people are trading their time for your dollars and they don't need to be there, and really honoring and appreciating the gifts that they come in with. And the way that we honor and appreciate that is with money. as an owner. That's how we do it. We
Mm.
pay for their
Mm.
time. So I'm in kind of a rural area. We have a full kitchen for our staff. There's tons of food because I don't want them I don't want them leaving to go get lunch. So they can just make lunch here. We buy lunch once a week, and then they get cash dividends, and they can also take care of their family with whatever products, because there's always leftover on the product line. So all of our leftover product is distributed amongst them to take care of themselves and their family. And and when I owned
Wow.
restaurants, I let everybody eat. But the difference is that I noticed, like I had one girl that worked for me who thought that a half a gallon of ice cream a day was an acceptable meal. You know? So you
What?
learn, which is crazy. She was very skinny, so she didn't think that it would bother her. She didn't understand. She didn't care about that. But the food costs and somebody eating, a half a gallon of ice cream a day was not the cost of a meal. So
Right.
like so I have had to learn as an entrepreneur, how to like, what does that really mean when I'm giving you these things, like I have one kid that works for me and he's wanting to do his own business. And I was like, wait a minute, you are not taking my stuff and then selling it for a profit for you. So,
Right.
you have to, as a woman, like, you have to have a hard line. And unfortunately, it's very challenging for us girls, us ladies, because for me, people immediately see me as their mom, because I'm the mother of
Mm.
four. I have that mom energy. I'm like, gonna, tie your shoes and give you a snack, right? But I'm not your
Mm.
mother, I'm your boss. And
Right.
finding that, like, that ground in the very beginning, it's like compassionate with a sword, you know? It's like I am carrying
Mm.
my sword. I will drop it. And honestly, television's helped me a lot to hone these characters. And one of my favorite is Teresa Mendoza from Queen of the South. I don't know if you know.
I've heard of the show. Are you talking about is she the lead character?
Yeah, she's the lead character. She runs a cartel.
Okay, 'cause
You know?
I have seen a few episodes of that.
Yeah, and she does it from heart, So as a woman, you
Yeah,
cannot walk away from heart. You just can't. You have to
right.
be able to,
Yeah,
but you also can't wear it on your sleeve, and you can't have it encased in a sarcophagus either. So it's really important that we know who we are and we learn as we go. Like I used to scream at people.
right.
I don't scream at anybody anymore. I've done a lot of self work so I can learn how to ask questions. When I know that I'm like spent, I'm not going to walk in and start asking people what they're doing. I'm going to step out, because your thing is about self-care, right? So if you don't know who you are, you cannot care for yourself. And I think in
That's right.
running staff, taking care of my staff, and I run my staff like I run my home the same way, but and I have that, like, nobody knows, like, if you, yeah, don't cross it. Like, there's all this kindness, and here, have a sandwich, but I will also cut your head off and hand it right back to you, but not
Question
unprovoked,
for you.
you know?
What is your vetting process? Because you say you have 10 employees, and I know as an entrepreneur, you do have to eventually hire some help because you cannot do it on your own. What was your vetting process in that, and how do you know
I
you have
stole
gotten the
every
right?
single person from somebody else. I literally cultivated every single person who works for me. I took them from someone else. I did.
Oh my goodness. Oh
Truth.
my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be ruthless. Like I was saying, like there has to be a part of you. This is not friendship. This is business. You know, this
Oh
is
my
this is
gosh.
business. So when I saw someone who was really like my lead manufacturing chick, my lead production girl, she worked for a house cleaning agency and she was cleaning my business. And I was like, she's really good. Like this girl knows what's up. And I knew that her boss was kind of mean. And so
Mm,
it took me, like, she was very loyal. So it took me about a month to get her away from her other job. And then
mm.
her boss uh, came after me when I took her, and I was like, "Excuse me, but I believe that this is the United States of America, and you fired her. So I picked her up. You like, sorry, you didn't recognize her brilliance." And I
Mm.
asked people, so I'd see somebody who was doing something great, and then I'd wait my turn, basically. But
Oh,
offer
okay.
them, like, like another kid that's in my production. It took me 2 years to get him to come over to my team, but I was like, I'll pay you more. These are the things that you get. Why don't you just, if you have extra time during the week, just come over and give me a couple hours. Like even if you give me a Saturday, that would be helpful. Um,
Oh,
so I just cultivated gently these people and made sure that once I got them, I take very good care of them because
mm,
they are running my business. And the only way, like, I mean, I have for decades done every single thing from like one time I made, packaged, and delivered 375 chocolate cakes
wow.
with two children under 5. Okay.
375. That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of cakes, and they were all flourless. So if you like, flourless cakes are not easy to bake. And they were
Mm,
frosted with ganache, so they had multiple steps. And then I had to make sure that they like stayed stable while I transported them around the state of
mm,
Montana. So that's what I'm saying. So now I don't want to make 375 cakes. I don't want to make 10,000 gummies a month like we do. So it's really important to me that the people that make those gummies show up, follow my recipe
mm.
correctly, and that they know that they are honored in that process because it's not an automation. I can't just replace them.
Speaking of automation, you say you are using AI in your business. Tell me about that.
Okay, well, I hate to admit it, but I love AI. Okay, I
I
really do.
do. Yeah.
I know I'm a bad person and I'm killing the planet, but I'm sorry. So
Yes.
it has been incredibly helpful in helping me get organized. Like I have to do all of these videos for our products. Just being able to plug the information and the websites into my Claude and then say, this is the tone that I want, and have it kick out a 90-second dialogue reel for me. That is
Yes.
life changing. It's life changing. I do client notes and I see, 100 clients a month. I was hand doing every single one of those notes. Now I use the note taker and then I plug it
Yes.
into my thing. And then it was so awesome. It made me a template of a note taker. So now I just can use that template. And then as far as our marketing, it's been really fun. It's been great fun. Like, instead of spending $2,000 on product photos, which suck, you know,
Yes.
and like dealing with the photographer and all of their whatnot, and it's not my fault, and I've already given you your copies, and all that stuff. It's like, here is our label, here is our bottle, boom, here is our catalog. And I
Yes.
know that I'm supposed to be unhappy about that, and I'm taking someone's job, but do better,
Yep.
because the truth is that none of this is going to happen without a human. So if you want to sit around as a graphic designer and whine about how AI is going to take your job, that's on you. That's on you. Why don't you learn how to use it so it can
Yes.
benefit who you are? This is not going anywhere. So, you standing over there having a problem about it isn't going to fix it for you.
Yeah, a lot of people complain about it, but it's definitely, I think once they start like just testing it out, it's because it's addictive. I'm not gonna even lie to you.
No,
Once
it
you get
is. It's
used to
addictive. Yeah.
using it, and implementing it in so many different aspects of your life and business, it can also almost become a handicap, but it is
Yeah,
definitely
I mean that's like
an
anything, right? But
enhancement.
here's the deal: like if you're an I did this thing with my AI, and I recommend it for all entrepreneurs. Have it interview you and ask you a series of questions, and ask it to be combative. And then after you've done 20 or 30 minutes of that, tell it to have it describe to you who you are as a business and where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are. So this is an awesome coaching tool. It is not going to replace the human brain. And if it's
No.
used correctly, it's going to make us smarter
Yes,
by applying more critical thinking.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell me this, have you experienced burnout? What was your experience with that in your business?
Oh, for sure. So, yeah, burnout, it is a very real thing and you have to honor it. That's the deal. So, I think I can, and just keep swimming, right? Well, there comes a point where you're going to crash that train and that fish is going to die, and you just need to sit down. So, I'm not going to tell you about all my burnout was horrible. You know, I gained like 100 pounds. I had just lost a family member. My relationship fell apart and I just completely collapsed. So I laid on my bed for 3 months and twirled my hair and petted my dog. But through that,
Oh,
I really learned like what does self-care mean? So I've always been a really athletic person and it took me a lot. I'm not really like one that's going to meditate, but the way that we wake up in the morning really matters. The way that we start our day really matters. If you roll over and you pick up your phone and you're immediately into the BS of your life, you are not setting yourself up to do anything but burn out later in the day. So I wake up, I listen to certain music, you know, I kind of like bring myself, I don't touch my phone for at least 40 minutes until I'm fully awake and have had coffee and connected to my physical body. And that has the number one thing that has helped me stop burning out. And also acknowledging that I cannot do everything, you know? Like there is no way. We live in an expansive universe. It is constantly multiplying. There is no way any of us will ever get it done, you know. And then God said you got to rest, right? So if you just follow the simple pattern that the creators laid out for you, there has to be that point of resting. And I think also as a mom and an entrepreneur, you know, I always chose my kids over business. And people would be like, oh, like, you know, they're fine. But now that I'm 60 and I look back on that and I have grandkids and I think, you know what, when I put my head down for the last time and take the dirt nap, I am not going to be sad that I missed that meeting. I am
yeah,
going to be sad if I miss that baseball game. So for all
true.
you young women that are out there trying to do this, it pays a huger dividend and you will not burn out if you follow your kids. What you brought to the planet and what you chose to bring here to raise, that is your greatest dividend. I promise you, when you do that, you get the blessings in so many other ways, as opposed to fighting, fighting, fighting. I have to be there. I have to do that meeting. I have to show up for this. No, you don't. Guess what? The world still moves. And everybody has to find that on their own, you know. But I hope that you find it earlier than I did, honestly, because I definitely feel like I probably took many years off my life just trying to do everything. And then there just came a point where I could not do everything. And, you know, and here's the amazing thing, people pick up the slack. You know? They like, if
Mm,
you let it, someone cannot help you if you were like, hold my cup, and you will not give up the cup, they cannot hold it for you. So you
that's
have to
true.
put the cup down, and then you have to, I don't care if you put rubber bands around your arm and you snap them or you like, you know, like pinch yourself. You have to give other people the space to pick it up.
That was a great, that was definitely a great tip to give out. Because I was just, that was going to be my next question. Like, what would you say to women experiencing burnout? And you just gave a great example of that. I love what you said. That was, I actually took that in for myself when you said, um, business is going to be there, but when you take your last nap, you're not going to be thinking about that meeting that you missed. You're going to be thinking about that baseball game or that time you missed with your kids or your family. Those are the things that matter. Because at the end of the day, I wasn't even thinking about that. I mean, of course, we know, but you're not actually thinking about that when you're running your business. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of us sometimes lose sight of that. So that was definitely a great lesson and tip. I'm sure a lot of women will be able to relate to that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Of
And then the other
course.
thing is that there is no competition. You are not competing with anyone else. The only person that I have, people be like, "Do you know so and so?" And I'm like, "I have no idea who they are, nor do I like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care about anybody else who's in my industry because it doesn't matter." And I'm also so insanely competitive that if I start worrying about what, you know, Betty Sue is doing, I'm going to get my nose all up in Betty Sue and I'm going to forget about what I'm doing over here with myself. So the only person that
That's
you are
true.
competing with you is yourself.
Self.
And the only person that you are improving is yourself. And everybody else just needs to do what they're doing. And cream always rises. And if you keep your attention on yourself, you become the attraction. But when your attention is on other people, then it's on other people. No one's going to be
That's
like,
so true.
okay, so and so is blah, 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 but you're really awesome. No, hold the attention on yourself and hold your dreams close to you. Like, these are not like
Hmm.
when you have a good idea or you're just about to succeed, like oftentimes women won't share their pregnancies until they're in their second trimester. That's the
Right.
same thing with business. You are birthing something. Everything is not birth just a baby. When you have a thought and idea and you're going to bring something to the marketplace, you are just stating and birthing an idea and a business and a child. So very important to hold that close to you and nurture that, and only your trusted circle. Because nobody needs to hear, I work with people who are dealing with life threatening illness. And as soon as you tell somebody, or if you're pregnant, oh, well, this is my experience,
Oh,
my
yeah.
Betty Joe, blah, blah, blah. And they start putting these things in your brain, and nobody is strong enough to filter all of that out.
Right.
So the less you share, the stronger you are. And that doesn't mean be guarded. It just means hold what's sacred to you close to your heart, just like you would if you were carrying a baby.
That is so true. Another great message. Before we get out of here, because I know we can, it seems as though we could just keep talking.
Yeah.
Because we're running out of time. But I didn't get a chance to ask you about the products that you actually serve or sell out of your business. Can you list the products that you're selling?
Well, they can find us at swanapothecary.com on Facebook, Instagram, and the World Wide Web. Our products are well, they're awesome botanicals that are fortified in cannabinoids. So everything is safe from babies to old people. A lot of it is topical. Some of it is oral. There's edibles and ingestibles, and just land there, and you could find something for everything you need, from sore muscles to going to sleep to just wanting to relax and enjoy yourself. Everything's made in small batches.
Hmm. And everything, so everything has cannabis in it, correct?
Everything has cannabinoids. So cannabis, let's keep cannabis like in the THC family, and
Okay.
because cannabinoids are safe and legal throughout this entire country. So that would be like
Okay.
CBD, CBG, CBN, and non-psychotropic. The psychotropic
Okay.
cannabinoid is THC. So most of our products,
Okay.
unless you are
No
living,
THC. Okay.
yeah, most of them are without THC unless you're living with life-threatening illness, and then they can reach out to us directly to find those, because
Okay.
those go through a
Okay.
different pathway. But and that is that, people get a CBD gets a bad rap because of the garbage that's sold at like the smoke shop. This is not
Right.
that. These are whole plant extractions that are backfilled with botanicals and terpenes that are that are bioavailable and designed to repair the myelin sheath and fix your central nervous system.
Hmm. Okay. So since I know my worry was always, does it have like a slight portion of THC in it to where it would be found in your system?
So CBD is going to show. They're all going to show up the same. THC is not going to be separate
Okay.
from CBD. So it's all going to show up like that. But you can, if that is something that you have a concern for because of your licensure, you can't, whatever. Then there's a tremendous amount of topical relief that does not cross your blood-brain barrier, that does not go through your liver, and does not test.
Oh,
And
okay.
you can also,
That's good to
it
know.
goes through your belly button. So there's many ways to use cannabinoids, which have been with people for always and since always. I mean, cannabis medicine goes back to the Ming Dynasty and the Ayurvedics. So it didn't just get
Hmm.
here yesterday. It's been around for always and since always. And the reason why they shut it down was because Dow Chemicals, because cotton takes more water, more labor, and it's harder to process than hemp. So during the 30s, during the
Hmm.
Industrial Revolution, when America wanted to make money, they weren't going to follow the pattern on something that's sustainable. Of course not. That's not how this country rolls. So they,
Yeah.
picked the one that was going to make them the most money and destroy the planet the fastest.
Which is
It's
crazy.
crazy.
All right, my final question before we get out of here. What is the one thing you know about success that you didn't know when you first started?
It is not monetary. I always thought that success was monetary. It is not. Success for
It is
me
not.
personally is measured in the quality of my life. And yes, of course, money helps, of course, like, but it is not the goal. So the quality of your life is where real success lies. I make a product that people, it changes their life. We have an 80% return rate back to our products. That's phenomenal. That's
Wow.
success. And that speaks to the amount of care, concern, and time I put into creating that product line. I have healthy children. That's success. These are the ways
Yes.
I'm healthy. That's your biggest success is in your health, man. You can have $20 billion and your heart's gonna fail. Your heart's still gonna fail. So, and health is accumulative. So, all you people out there who think that you can just drink and party and stay awake all night and you're just gonna work and work and work, no, it's not gonna work like that. Because when you get to your 40s, you're gonna start breaking down. And your 50s and your 60s, your health is accumulative. I like to tell this story about this client I had that was in his 90s and he was good friends with Joe Pilates. So he was like, had done Pilates his whole life. He would get up off of the treatment table in a teaser, which is where you bring your arms and your feet together in a V and you balance on your sacrum. He was 92 years old and he could do that. So
Wow.
that is the standard of excellence I'd like to keep for myself. So your health is your wealth. It is not your money. And if you do not take care of your health, which means that you monitor your burnout and you realize that you are the priority, what do the Chinese say? You cannot draw from an empty well. So you must fill yourself up first, whatever that means, 15 minutes a day.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Robin, for joining me today.
Thank
Before we
you.
go, one more time, please give out your information to where people could find you, your
You can find
website,
me by
Instagram.
just Googling my name, Robin Swan. I'm all over the internet, unfortunately. And the business is Swan Apothecary. It's on Facebook, Instagram, and the web. So just find us that way.
All right. Well, thank you for joining the CEOess ERA Conversations, where we don't just build businesses, we build alignment, clarity, and systems that support the life that you actually want. All right. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation today. I learned a lot from you, and it will help me, and I'm sure it'll help other women that are listening to this podcast. So thank you again, and you have a beautiful Saturday.
Thank you. Now, I have to show you my daughter.
Okay. Oh, wow. So we do look alike. I thought you were just kidding. Wow. Oh, I can see it.
My second
Wow.
daughter. I know it might just be the hair, but and that great
It
smile.
might be. But yeah, she's definitely. Wow.
I
Okay.
know that's great. And your
Okay.
name's Leilani, so I absolutely love you. If you
Thank
will
you.
send me your address, I would love to send you a box of our products that are all safe and legal and won't get you high.
I will definitely send you my
Yeah,
address.
yeah, please do.
All
It
right.
was
Well,
such a
thank you
pleasure.
so much. I really enjoyed. I can't wait to post this because I really enjoyed your conversation. You really taught me a lot today, just about your history and everything. Just you
Thank
really
you.
gave out a lot of tips and everything. You weren't just talking about your business, but in the midst of you talking about your business, you also gave out really learning tools for people to understand, not just talk about your business, but understand why you made the decisions that you made in your business and guiding people to not make certain decisions.
Yeah, well, it's
So
hard to be a
thank
mom
you.
and a business
I
owner.
really
Thank you
enjoyed
so
it.
much. And keep up the good work, girl. Like I love your shows. They're great. I enjoyed them. All right. Well, I
Thank you
will
so
visit with you.
much.
Have a nice weekend.
All right.
Bye.
You too. Bye.